I wanted to preface what you're about to see. I would love to have edited the video, ideally. I went to school, but I'm so tired that I was just sitting there on my phone. I even wrote down on my little post-it note what times and where to cut it and everything, to be exact, so that I could put it all together. And I just started crying because it was so difficult, and my brain capacity is it's at 0 right now, okay? I'm so exhausted that working my brain for any amount of time is absolutely fucking exhausting. So you're about to see the full uncut video that I took. I hope it's all relevant. I did try to shorten it for you so you don't get bored or it's not too long. Anyway, here it is. Hi, my name is Sasha Inzulevich, and I'm posting this video to spread awareness about my specific experience with multiple sclerosis, as well as a GoFundMe page that I've started, and I'll explain why I have this page. But second of all, I have to apologize for the mess in the background. I'm sorry you got to see that. This is the only place in the apartment where I have a little bit of natural light and I can sit down as I'm filming. I am absolutely exhausted. The most I can do at a time is maybe put all the dishes in one side of the sink and then wash one dish at a time. I'm exhausted. I managed to put on a little bit of makeup for this video. I got my hair up. I have a nicer t-shirt on, and then I'm gonna take a nap. If you see me look down and to the left, it's because I've written everything down. I like to tell stories. I have a lot of them, and every detail of every story that I tell tends to have another detail. So if you see me look down, it's just because I'm trying to stay focused. So my first attack with multiple sclerosis, I was about 17 years old. I was living on my own with an abusive ex. I would do it again. He got me out of another abusive situation, abusive home life, right? So the stress was there. The stress was intense. I dropped out of high school. I had a couple years, 2 to 3 years of drug addiction behind me. So I really wasn't in a good place. I think that has a lot to do, along with the childhood abuse, because stress and MS are very, very closely linked. I'll have a link for that down below. In fact, I'm going to link everything I'm going to talk about. That is a researchable thing. I'll have those in the description for you. So I was living in an apartment in New Westminster, and there was this really big hill. I believe it was near Canada Way. I could be wrong. But it was next to an underground SkyTrain station, I believe. And there was a very steep hill right next to it. And my ankles started to go numb. So I couldn't do this. This is my ankle. I couldn't do that. It was like walking on stilts. I was tripping all of the time because I could not articulate my ankle. But because I had learned I was a drama queen, I was going to get gaslit and nobody was going to believe me, and I was making a big deal out of nothing, I didn't tell anybody. Because I knew I wouldn't be believed anyway. So I kept it to myself. And then I started to think, well, maybe this happens to everybody because I'm not a special little snowflake. So I didn't tell anyone. I left the ex. I moved out on my own on a youth agreement. Excuse me. My nose is a little runny. I apologize. So I was living on my own, and I decided to go back to high school to walk across the stage. I did that right under the buzzer. I was able to get in. I was 19 when I walked across the stage, but I got in before my 19th birthday. Thankfully, I only had about a year and a half left. I felt so good about myself that I decided I'm going to go to university. I'm going to go to university. I'm going to get that life. I'm going to get that husband, that house, that family, the dog, the white picket fence, and then I'll be happy. And then I'll be successful. So in between high school and university, I had to move back home because I literally had nowhere else to go. My youth agreement had run out and I couldn't move back in with the ex, and I was a very alienated, isolated person. So I had no friends that I could live with, no other family members that I could live with. So I moved back home. That was stressful. And I remember laying on the couch downstairs in this shitty little basement suite that I had, and I was watching TV, and I remember my eyes started to feel weird. And then everything doubled. So it was like this. 2 of everything, right? But then it was like this. So everything was slanted. And then it was like this. Everything started to spin. It was like I was incredibly intoxicated. It was just really weird. I kind of wrote that off too, but at the same time, I was like, I need to go to the doctor. So I took myself and he sent me to an ophthalmologist. They didn't catch it. So I was like, shit, I guess this is normal. And then I wrote it off again. Then I went to university. And that's when they found it. The first term of university, I was in a full-blown, full course workload, 12 credit situation. And I was living by myself, like 40 minutes away from anybody that I knew, which I didn't mind. I was alienated my whole life through bullying and childhood abuse and a toxic family, so I was used to it. Still kind of sucked though. So I had nobody really by my side because my ex-boyfriend at the time, not the abusive one, but somebody else, he was just a piece of shit too. So I was alone when all of this went down, and it was difficult. But I knew that something was wrong. So despite my instincts telling me not to tell anybody, I still went to my GP. My ankles, the numbness of my ankles intensified. The symptoms with my eyes intensified. And then the scariest one of all time, and I still fear this symptom to this day, I remember walking in between my kitchen and my living room, and it's a small space, but I was just kind of minding my business, trying to get from one point of my apartment, my shitty little 700 square foot apartment, to the other without falling. And then this was frightening. Again, I'm still scared of it. My face started to twitch on the right side, and this, it happened like that, but it felt very, very slow at the exact same time. The best way I can explain it is like little white bubbles formed in my right eye until the whole thing was white. And then everything, the tingles on my right side intensified greatly, and it almost felt like tickling on the inside of my skin. And then my arm did this. And then my leg did the same thing. And then I hit the ground. I'm out. I don't even know how long I was out for. All I know is that I hit the ground after my right side started to seize up. It was very frightening. So whenever my face twitches, I just go right back to that moment. And so my GP sent me to an ophthalmologist. Finally, they saw something in my eyes, which is where it starts for a lot of people. And so they sent me for an MRI. December 22nd of 2012 at about 5 p.m., my GP calls me and he says, we think it's MS. And I'm like, what? He's like, multiple sclerosis. I was like, the fuck is that? I remember thinking I didn't know what MS was, but I knew that it was really bad. And I thought I was going to die. And so how this usually goes is they see it for the first time, and then you have to wait 8 months to an entire year to go for a second MRI, because they need to see if whatever lesions you have in your brain, cervical and thoracic spine, which is the areas that affect me, it doesn't affect everybody in the same spots. But for me, I got all three. And so they have to see, they have to let that time pass to see, are these lesions, are these artifacts, are they active, are they going to move? And they did. And I got to tell you, that waiting time is like a lifetime, because you're going without any kind of treatment. And by that point, I had done some research and I found out that these lesions could move, and they affect the electrical impulses that your brain sends through your spine to move, talk, speak, piss, shit, all of it. So I was terrified that I was going to wake up a full-blown paraplegic, which could very well happen. I don't know how likely that is, but the message in my brain was telling me that it was going to happen. So then I see a neurologist. She wasn't that good, so I found one of the best ones in BC. She started me on something called interferon, which is an injection you get 3 times a week. It works on some proteins in your body, I believe. I'll be linking that down below so you can see what it actually is and what it actually does. So they inject you in one of 4 locations: your thighs, your gut, your glutes, not your glutes, your your glutes, or your tricep. One of those 3 areas. It was incredibly painful, and it left me with horrible, horrible, horrible bruises that never healed. They never went away. It still takes me a long time to heal these. That didn't work because I was growing more lesions than I was healing. It wasn't pausing the illness. Now, these treatments, nothing can cure MS. Nothing. Don't believe what anybody tells you. There's no cure to this. All you can do is hope to stop the disease from getting worse. So interferon wasn't doing that. So she switched me over to Tecfidera, which is a pill 2 to 4 times a day. Excuse me. And I've been fighting a tickle this whole time. Excuse me. So it's in the morning and in the evening as well. So then that wasn't working either. The symptoms from these treatments can be intense. The nausea, the headaches, the fatigue, you know, whatever. I had those symptoms before anyway. So that wasn't working. And then finally, in the fall of 2015, which is exactly 3 years after being diagnosed, keep in mind I've already had this illness for nearly a decade, half of that not even knowing, my neurologist recommended something called Lemtrada. Lemtrada is the clinical name. Lemtrada is the nickname, and it is a chemotherapy. Used to be used for cancer. Found it works for MS, which is typically how these things go. And she said I could end up with one of 3 illnesses: thyroid dysfunction, lymphoma, kidney failure. But I said, let's do it. First year, 5 days, full 8-hour shift, sitting in the hospital with tubes and wires and medications, IV drip treatment. It's very intense. The nausea, the headaches, the fatigue. At one point, my heart rate dropped so low they almost stopped treatment. Afterwards, I was totally debilitated. It takes a full year for your body to heal. I'll be linking information about all of this down below, because what it does is it kills off your existing immune system to grow new white blood cells that aren't damaged, that won't form into lesions, that won't attack the myelin sheath surrounding the axon of your body, which is what conducts the electrical impulse sent from your brain through your spine. It's a whole thing. Lesions are very corrosive. So the second year is 3 days. Very intense. But it worked. I was in remission. That's what they call it. I was stable. It was working. A year following the second treatment, I got the thyroid dysfunction, Graves, hyperthyroidism. That was shitty. I thought I had more time. Then IBS, then GERD, then hypothyroidism. So I had Graves and Hashimoto's at the same time. Sometimes I get a little thyroid storm. It's terrible. But again, I was in remission. I was stable. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just live with this. Then my medical team advised I remove my thyroid. So I did it, and my quality of life went significantly downhill. I haven't trained since the end of May 2023. It is now June. Late June. I haven't trained. Terrible. Another story for another time. And so when my TSH, after a year-long battle with this, when my TSH finally got normal, my body just gave out. It just gave out. It couldn't handle it anymore. Because this entire time, through the struggle with the thyroid and all the other illnesses, I decided to go for my real estate licensing exam, because you know what? No job would accommodate me because I look like I'm fine, right? And I thought, what the hell else am I going to do? I have over half of my life in sales. And I love building relationships. I love working with people, and I love the process of selling stuff. So I was like, okay, real estate, natural choice, full autonomy. So while I'm fighting all of these illnesses, by some miracle, I get my real estate licensing exam, and then I had my thyroid removed, and then everything went really shitty. I couldn't do anything for like 6 months, and then when I could finally walk again, I decided, okay, well, I guess it's time to really push myself. I think that's one of the reasons why I continually burn out, is because I don't know how to stop and rest myself. And so when my thyroid levels were normal, my body gave out. I couldn't walk. My legs were too shaky. I couldn't use my arms. They were too weak. I couldn't use my fingers. They were too stiff. I couldn't eat. I couldn't wash. I literally couldn't even cut my food and bring it to my mouth. I needed help getting in and out of bed. I needed help walking. I couldn't do anything. That's when I went to the hospital. I got an IV trip of prednisone, which is a steroid, 1 gram, which is a very high dose, for 3 days. Then I got a contrast MRI of my C-spine. Sorry, my eyes are doubling right now. This is so trippy. Yeah. My neurologist nurse called me as if I already knew, and she let it slip. I'm out of remission. After 7 years. Funny enough, for the 6th or 7th year, after fearing coming out of remission for all those like 5 or 6 years, I finally went, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm in remission. And then guess what happens? I'm out of remission. So that was very, very intense news to hear. And I met with my neurologist and we decided I am going to go for chemotherapy again. Going into the first 2 rounds of chemotherapy was intense enough of a recovery. So the third one, going into it with what I already have right now, is terrifying. I have no idea what's going to happen. So I need help. I need a lot of help. I need a lot of help from you or anyone that you know via my GoFundMe page so that I can afford assistance following treatment. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm going to need someone around the clock to help me cook, help me eat, help me bathe, help me use the bathroom, help me get in and out of literally everything. Everything I'm going to need help with. So I hope that you can visit my GoFundMe page. And even if you don't have anything to donate, that's totally okay. But if you could just send it to someone you know, I'd really appreciate that. And this next part kind of makes me cringe because I get really annoyed with these types of stuff. But I know with this type of stuff, but I know that if I don't get more likes, if I don't get more subscriptions, if I don't get more views, this video won't get out there and I won't be able to spread awareness about what life is like with this illness, what the treatments are, and what can happen as cause of these treatments. And I think it's really important people know, because I feel like multiple sclerosis is kind of the latchkey kid of illnesses. People don't know what really causes it. People don't really know how to manage it that well, so people don't really talk about it, like what it actually is like living with. So I think it's important this information gets out there. I think it has some value to offer the world. Hopefully you can help me offer that value to the world. It would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe, send this to somebody, like it, and then comment down below too. Do you have MS? Do you have any other kind of invisible or visible disability? Do you know anyone with it? Did you find information in this video or the description useful? And then how can I improve? Thank you for lasting this 16 minutes. I tried to make it as quick as possible. Thank you. Bye for now.